Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, let's take a look at the 2025 BMW 340i and the 2024 Acura TLX Type S. Now both of these sedans have a very similar MSRP. Starts at $61,600 for the 340 and $57,000 for the Acura. Now as tested in today's video, closer to $64,000 for the 340 and $58,000 for the Acura. So there's not quite as many options for the Acura as the BMW, but they can be similarly spec'd if you get fewer options on the 340. So these are very sporty sedans. The Acura is a redesigned model for this year. So let's get into today's video. Now this is powered by the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder turbocharged engine. It's paired to the hybrid motor as well, along with the 8-speed automatic. It pumps out 386 horsepower, 398 pound-feet of torque. This model here is rear-wheel drive. However, all-wheel drive is available. It weighs in right around 3,900 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. And it has a top speed up to 180 miles an hour. This also has a fuel capacity of 15.6 gallons. You'll expect to see around 23 miles per gallon in the city, 31 out on the highway. Now this is powered by a 3-liter turbocharged V6 paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission, pumping out 355 horsepower, 354 pound-feet of torque. That power is sent through the SH all-wheel drive system. This weighs in right around 4,200 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. Top speed is 155 miles an hour. It also has a fuel capacity of 15.9 gallons. You'll expect to see around 19 miles per gallon in the city, 25 out on the highway. Now as we work our way back to the front end for this M340i, it does have the M Sport Pro package, which provides it with all the gloss black. So you'll notice that for the kidney grille, where there's also active grille shutters and a forward-facing camera. There's also LEDs for the lights up front. With that dark housing, they go off of the side of that kidney grille very nicely. There's also parking sensors up front, a lot more cutouts and inlets to provide additional cooling as needed. And the trim accents on both sides give it a really nice contrast. And then there's some subtle lines that come down the hood. For this model, gloss black for the entire lower section with some very nice contoured edges with inlets on both sides, as well as the cutout right in the middle. Definitely gives it a sporty appearance from the front, especially with those two lines on both sides there. Now the Acura badge is front and center, which is also the sensor for the adaptive cruise. There's a forward-facing camera, and you'll notice that the design in the grille is almost like an explosion from the Acura badge. So jetting out both ways, where there's also the Type S badge. And this also has a slim set of LED headlights along with the turn signals and DRLs. With the bodywork surrounding them, they are very nicely integrated into this front end. And then there's some great lines that come down the hood. Now the M340 also has a really nice set of two-tone wheels along with the M Sport brakes. They are finished off in red for this model. This has gloss black for the power folding side mirrors, which have a camera and a turn signal. There's a sunroof up top, and then all of the window trim is blacked out as well. And then there's some really nice definition in that lower side skirt, as well as some nice subtle lines that run down the side. Now as we work our way to the side, this is one of the 3 new wheel options available with the Acura Brembo brakes just behind there. Now for the side mirrors, there's the turn signal. The mirror caps are finished off in gloss black. This does have a sunroof up top. All of the window trim is blacked out too. And then from the side, some very nice edges and lines. The one in the lower section there has a nice curve to it, and then there's some more lines just at the height of the door handle. And back, there's a small gloss black trunk mounted spoiler. There's the backup camera, the dark housing for those LEDs. There's also parking sensors, and then some more gloss black in the lower section and that dual exhaust. Now this does have remote start, so you can use the key fob for that if you would like to. You can also use the key fob to release the trunk, or use that tab up underneath. Now there's no power trunk for this specific model, and you get a storage bin on both sides. There's also no storage underneath the floor, but you can also fold down the back seats. So simply pull on both of those tabs, and that will give you a lot more interior space, making this that much more practical. Now you have this lip on the underside here, so you basically have a grab handle behind the entire trunk liner there. And in back, this has a really nice trunk mounted spoiler that is finished off in gloss black. There's the backup camera integrated into the Acura badge itself. Very nice set of LED taillights. There's all the parking sensors and a quad tip dual exhaust with some fins in that gloss black diffuser.
So that gives it a more sporty appearance from the rear, of course. And as we work our way to the cargo space now, you can use the button on the key fob or this button on the right side, where this will open up. It is not power operated, but it's nice that it will open up as you begin to load this with items. And in back, there's a fairly good bit of space. Up underneath the floor, not too much space, but you could place in some additional items if you really needed to. And it goes out both ways, so you can fit in some longer items sideways. Now, you can actually fold down the back seats, so you can pull those tabs on both sides. However, you will notice that there's a crossbar for extra rigidity and support for this Type S. So it does limit what items you can put through, but you do have some room underneath that X and on the side. So you could make it work. Very interesting to see that, but of course, this is the performance version. Now, as we work our way to the interior, this does have the proximity door handles, so you can unlock it, where we are greeted now with the Canberra Beige interior. Really nice combo with this exterior blue. So you'll notice the two-tone on the door panel. There's also the brushed aluminum interior lighting. It's on the release handle too, and then there's additional storage down below. And then at 5'10", hopping into the back, I have a good bit of space. There's no storage pockets behind both front seats, however, but you have your vents, your climate adjustments, USB-Cs, and then at my height, I have maybe ½ inch or less of headroom. So if you're taller than me, 3 Series is a little bit on the smaller side, but it's definitely doable for smaller adults to fit in the back. Now, right in the middle, you do get the armrest along with the cup holders, and then you can also fold down this middle seat individually if you would like to. There's also a good bit of visibility, so the pillars in the back are thin there. Now, as we work our way to the back seats, this has a beautiful interior. There's red leather surrounding the armrest here, along with the black leather and stitching. This has the ELS Studio 3D audio system. There's also a little bit of storage in the lower section there, and then more of the red and the black accents for these back seats. Now, at 5'10", there's actually a good bit of space in the back. I do have the front seat set at my height. We have storage pockets in the back, some climate vents, as well as auxiliaries. And I have maybe ½ inch or so above my head. It doesn't feel like a small sedan. I could definitely be comfortable riding around in the back and possibly having 2 other people back here with me. Now, you get a little bit of storage in the armrest along with 2 cup holders and a pretty good amount of visibility. We have some large windows on both sides. Now, up front, there's the memory seating adjustments, lock and unlock. You have your window, side mirror adjustments, and the trunk release down below. And then there's the automatic front seats, which have a nice design to them. There's one manual support or adjustment that is for the leg support there, so you can use that as needed. And then as we hop in now, we are greeted with the solid leather steering wheel. There's a red stripe up top, flat bottom design to it with all these brushed aluminum accents. But let's fire this up now, take a listen to how the 340 sounds. Now, up front, door panel is just like the rear. However, there are memory seating controls, side mirror adjustments. They are power folding. There's all the window controls, trunk release, and even more storage space. And then Type S is down on the door sill. It's also in the headrest. So it's nice to see that, along with the design for these front seats, which are automatic. So all of those controls are on the side. Now, as we take a look at the interior, we have the flat bottom design for this Type S steering wheel, along with perforations and solid leather, some more red stitching. But let's start this back up and we'll take a listen to that exhaust. As we come back to the digital gauge cluster now, you'll notice on the left side there's miles per hour, right side is the tach. Now, I can use this button in the middle over on the right side to go through some more of this information. So I can scroll through all of this content, just depending on how you would like to see it or what you would like to see. And then you can also go to layout, so you can change how you want to view this information if you need it in a little bit larger view, or you can go into a smaller view. Now, this also has paddle shifters. There's volume tuning, Bluetooth and voice commands, and then cruise control on the left. You get all of your headlight adjustments. There's also an air vent. No head-up display for this model. And then as we work our way to the infotainment system, you have a lot more to go through. So you can get into your phone, you have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all your interior lighting, climate adjustments. You have a lot of icons to scroll through. On the home screen, you can go through your nav on one side, and then you can go through this info over on the left side. So it's nice to have that split view. You can get into your climate adjustments, you have your navigation in full screen, there's music, and then you can also get into the heated seats, heated steering wheel, and your temperature adjustments on both sides. There's this optional trim accent just underneath that, along with 2 air vents, some ambient lighting. You have power and volume along with tuning and defrosters with auxiliaries and cup holders. And then you can hide all of that away as needed. You also have all these shortcuts to get through the infotainment system. So you don't have to use it as a touchscreen system. You can simply just go through all of those shortcuts. Now, if we put this into reverse, we have the backup camera along with the 360 view. There's also automatic parking and the backup assistance. So you have no shortage of visibility around this entire vehicle, just depending on what you would like to see. There's also drive and the sport mode. You have park all the way at the back. And then there's traction control along with a shortcut to the forward-facing camera, so you can pull that up in full screen. There's your parking sensors along with the engine start-stop, and then you have 3 different driving modes. So you can go into these as needed, depending on how you would like to drive and how you want the vehicle to react. There's auto hold and the e-brake. You get storage with auxiliaries, and then even more storage in the glove box. Up top, there's the garage door buttons, and then you have your controls for the sunshade and the sunroof, as those are both automatic. And then here's a look at visibility. It's pretty easy to see over both shoulders, so you have quite a lot of visibility from the driver's seat. And looking at the digital gauge cluster, this and the infotainment system are both actually new for this refresh. So for the current gauge cluster setup, the tach is on the left side, along with your driving mode, your gear selector, engine temperature. Right side, there's miles per hour and the fuel. Now, to go through that information, over on this left side, you'll notice there's a power button. So that is actually for the audio, so you can turn that on and off. There's volume underneath that, Bluetooth controls, and then you have menu and the scrolling dial. So menu is actually going to go into the head-up display. So from what I've been able to tell, the entire gauge cluster is actually fixed in that setting. So up on the head-up display, hopefully you will be able to tell. Currently, I am looking at phone, and I can scroll down to your Sirius. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are now wireless for this 24-year model. And you have your Bluetooth, your normal radio, some USB settings. You can actually select your driving view as well. So now it's pulling up with navigation and some menu icons that you can pull up. So not a whole lot of information to go through, but it is nice to have that on the head-up display. Very easy to see, a little bit better in person, of course, than on camera. Now on this right side, you have your cruise control settings along with your steering assist, and then you can go through some information on the right side of the gauge cluster screen. So we'll start with some trip information. There's also navigation. You have some vitals that you can pull up, TPMS, your all-wheel drive, even a drive attention level, and a few others here. So that's about all that you can go through. You do have some settings that you can look at just to see what you'd like to adjust that to, but it's nice that you can at least scroll through that with this digital gauge cluster. Now this also has steering wheel mounted paddle shifters that have a nice feel to them. And on the left side, there is adjustments for the head-up display, so you can adjust the tilt of it and the brightness. There's also a safety sense that you can turn on and off for that technology. There's a defroster, parking sensors, traction control, dimmer switch for the gauges, as well as the e-brake. Really nice dark trim surrounding the 1 air vent there. And then as we work our way to the infotainment system, this is not a touchscreen system. So in order to use this, you have controls down below. There's back, home, and then you have these controls here with the pads behind that. So on the home screen right now, if I use that pad in the back, you'll notice it will follow my finger. So obviously I can put my finger where I would like the information to be. You do have to hold your finger before you can click down in order to get into that information. Now by pushing on home, we can go back to this screen, where over on that right side, you can actually use half of the screen to pull up some more information. So now you have that separate mouse pad that you can use for what you would like to see in the split screen on that far right side. So there's not a whole lot of information to go through, but it's nice that you do have these icons here that you can use. I do wish it was touch screen, so it's interesting to see that. But you can scroll through all this, even get through your ambient lighting, and this is basically some of the info that you saw on the head-up display. So I'm assuming that you can configure that to see what you would like to see on the dash. Underneath that, there's the hazards, as well as all of the climate adjustments. So you have your temperatures and fan speed that you can go through, as well as where you'd like the air to go, turning this on and off. This even has heated and ventilated front seats, along with some automatic adjustments. And right in the middle, this rotary dial is for the different driving modes. So there's sport mode, there's also normal, you have comfort, and then when you go back to sport and hold on the icon, you can go into Sport Plus. And then pushing on the center goes to an individual setting that you can customize and configure. So it's mainly just going to adjust your throttle response. We'll see how that is once we get this out on the road. Now underneath that, there's engine start stop along with the brake hold. And then with my foot on the brake, this is how you put the vehicle into reverse. Neutral is just by pushing that icon behind that, and then you have drive and sport mode at the very back. And then you have a few different camera angles depending on what you would like to see, and you can even adjust the brightness for it. A little bit tricky to use with that trackpad system, but you can still go through that and of course have the backup camera. And then when you push on this twice, that goes into S mode for the paddle shifters. And then behind that, there's volume and tuning for the radio. Nice little place you can rest your hand while you're using these controls here. Wireless charging is behind that. And then there are 2 cup holders. You get some auxiliaries in the armrest with a good bit of space. And then the glove box, of course, has plenty of room for all of those items. Now there's some garage door buttons up underneath the rear view mirror there. Sunglass holder up top. And then with the sunroof, sunshade is manual adjusting. And then you have the sunroof controls up top. Here's a look at visibility from the driver's seat. So it's not a big vehicle, but you can even see over this left shoulder. So there's really not any blind spots. So as we start off behind the wheel for the M340i, we are in sport mode. We'll just give it a minor acceleration. Again, check out the full detailed reviews for more of the driving impressions. But behind the wheel of the 340, this is a very nice BMW and sporty sedan to go with. This is referred to as the M Lite. So it's a huge step below the M3, but it still has a lot of potential for it. And especially in the factory form, we have a very nice performance-oriented, luxury-focused sedan. But you also have a lot of tuning potential with this model. So if this is something that is more in your budget, you can still get an M car for the money. You do maybe an aftermarket suspension, throw on an exhaust, you can tune this, and you can really bump up the performance and the handling. Now, again, in the stock form, it handles very well. It is very quick, and it sounds good too. So you could leave it stock if you wanted to and just have a very nice vehicle. So just depending on your budget, what you want to do with the car again, but it's a nice vehicle. It's very comfortable. If we put it into comfort mode, it will get a little bit softer. We have very nice seats that are a lot more daily driver friendly, and we have a lot of good tech. A lot of space too for the 3 Series. This is on the smaller side again for the sedan lineup from BMW. But it drives nice. It's what you would expect for a BMW as far as the comfort level goes and all of the materials and everything that you get. Now, this particular 340 is a little bit more on the base side. We have an MSRP in the mid $60,000 range. It can creep up to the 70s just depending on the options you go with. So of course this is missing some that you could add depending on what you would like, what fits your daily driving preference more. So the 340, I really like this car. I've had friends with these cars. I've had friends who have put car seats in the back. It's just a really nice, well-rounded sedan. And even in comfort mode here, paddles are still very responsive. So it's a nice vehicle to be behind the wheel. And you have a lot that you can still do with this M Lite version. And we are in Sport S Plus into second gear. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear just how quick those shifts are. Now if we dial it back, let's just go into normal mode where you can still use the paddles, but the throttle response just isn't quite there. So it's nice to see that there is a difference. Oh, there we go, Sport Plus. There's a big difference between these driving modes, and you can see that animation pop up there. But this is what it's like to be behind the wheel for the Acura TLX, and the performance driving, the characteristics and the handling of this is so nice. This is a car that if you're taking on a road trip and you happen to be going through the mountains, well, you can have fun while you're getting to your destination, because this is a car that is going to give you the performance on these twisties to really utilize the power of this vehicle. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not a fast car, it's definitely quick. It's not going to rip through these gears, but you're going to have a ton of usable power all the way up to about 6,000 RPM here to get up and move. Definitely a great place to be. I love the seating position. Steering wheel has good notches on both sides to give you this grip that you need. And overall, it's kind of a basic interior. We don't have a lot of controls and everything to go over as far as the gauge cluster and all that. Even the heads-up display is not all that configurable. So it is a little bit more basic, but it gives you almost everything that you want without having to go through a million different things. So I do like the fact that it's easy to use, minus not being touchscreen there, but everything is very simple, straightforward. You have the performance, you get a luxury brand like Acura here. We even have the interior ambient lighting, which will change red for the Sport S Plus mode. And it's honestly, even in the Sport S Plus mode, it's still comfortable, quiet, daily driver friendly, and something that you can just have fun with, some performance driving at that $50,000, mid-50s. You can break 60 depending on options, but for the price, not all that bad with this performance and handling that you get.
And coming back to our final thoughts now between the 340i and the TLX Type S. Now the Type S we actually had for a week, so we were able to do a lot more driving with this vehicle. We took it to the mountains to really see how well this performs, and honestly it was pretty shocking from that sedan. With the structure that it has, the rigidity, it is a very fun vehicle to drive, especially being turboed. It has some adequate power. Now with the 340, you can do some tuning, you can get a lot more power out of that, but that just depends on if that is something that you are interested in doing. Stock for stock, they are both very fun. Now we haven't been able to take the 340 to the mountains, but we've been able to drive them a lot and really see how well they do drive. So they're both pretty luxurious. The BMW is going to be slightly more, of course, than the Acura, but we have two very nice looking sedans, and it just depends on which exterior you like. It's pretty crazy to see that for almost the same price as a BMW, you're looking at an Acura. So if you've always wanted to get that next step, kind of that BMW, it's not going to be a far stretch from the Acura. So it's interesting to see kind of a similar price range between these two specific brands. But comment down below, would you rather go with the BMW or would you rather get the Acura? Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed today's head-to-head comparison, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.